You were taught that space is empty, a dead vacuum, black, silent, and completely explained by the physics you learned in school. That's the dogma, and the people most qualified to confirm it, astronauts, cosmonauts, the most psychologically vetted humans alive, have been filing reports for 5 decades that say otherwise. Objects that pulse like living organisms, structures that materialize 2 kilometers away and vanish, shadows 70 kilometers wide crawling across Earth with nothing above them to cast them, signals carrying mathematical structure on frequencies that should be dead silent, regions where time warps, instruments collapse, and human perception fractures. These aren't fringe claims from anonymous witnesses. They come from mission logs, internal reports, testimonies documented under the most monitored conditions ever engineered. And when you lay them side by side, which nobody does, they don't look like 10 separate anomalies. They look like one pattern. A pattern nobody connected, because connecting it raises questions no space agency wants printed on a press release. 1996. The Space Shuttle Columbia, mission STS-80. During a routine observation window, crew members documented luminous formations outside their viewport. Translucent, pulsing, moving with what appeared to be directional intent through low Earth orbit. Tendrils of light extended from central bodies, structures the observers compared to deep-sea jellyfish. NASA attributed the footage to ice crystals catching sunlight as they drifted from the cargo bay. Standard explanation, applied to nearly every anomalous visual captured in orbit. But ice crystals follow predictable trajectories dictated by orbital mechanics and thruster wash. The formations documented on STS-80 were recorded changing direction without any external force acting on them. No thruster firing, no gravitational assist. Movement that doesn't match the debris model. 2001. The International Space Station. Cosmonaut Yuri Usachev captured video of objects outside the station that appeared to merge, separate, and pulse in synchronized patterns. Not the random drift of orbital junk shaken loose from a panel. Coordinated movement, repeating. And here's what matters. This wasn't an isolated observation. Similar footage has been captured by multiple space programs across different vehicles spanning decades. The question isn't whether the footage exists. It does. The question is why the same type of anomalous behavior keeps appearing in the same biological-looking configurations when the official explanation says it's dead matter bouncing off sunlight. March 1991. Cosmonauts aboard the Mir space station reported something that orbital mechanics says shouldn't be there. A large structure, translucent, visible approximately 2 kilometers away. Commander Anatoly Artsebarsky described it as a contour roughly the size of a space station that maintained its position relative to Mir for nearly 3 minutes before fading. Logged. Dismissed as an optical illusion caused by specific lighting angles unique to orbit. Between 1995 and 2001, 4 separate Mir crews reported nearly identical sightings. Same approximate distance, same brief duration, same disappearance. And each time, and this is the part that doesn't fit the optical illusion theory, communication systems experienced unexplained interference and onboard instruments registered anomalies simultaneously. When Mir was deorbited in 2001, the sightings were expected to end with it. In 2006, an ISS crew member reported the same phenomenon during a spacewalk, a large shadowed structure momentarily visible against Earth's backdrop. You can call each of these pareidolia, the brain finding patterns in noise. That's the standard response, and it's not unreasonable. But pareidolia doesn't explain instrument failures. It doesn't explain communication drops. And it doesn't explain why independent observers across different decades describe the same thing with the same characteristics without access to each other's reports. Something doesn't add up. Follow me deeper. 2005. The ISS passes over the South Pacific. The crew observes a cluster of lights below their orbit moving in coordinated geometric formations. Not the scattered glow of fishing vessels or coastal cities. Triangles, squares, circles, forming and dissolving in sequences that lasted approximately 76 seconds. Multiple onboard cameras captured the event. NASA initially classified the footage, then released it with the explanation that the lights were likely squid fishing boats using high-powered lamps. That explanation collapsed under mathematical analysis. The acceleration rates documented in the footage are physically impossible for ocean-going vessels. The formations reconfigured at speeds exceeding 800 kilometers per hour, with perfect synchronization between objects separated by kilometers of open water. 7 subsequent ISS missions documented similar phenomena. 2 shuttle flights confirmed it independently. In 2011, astronaut Paolo Nespoli captured high-definition video of a cluster that appeared to reorganize as the station passed over it, ascending and descending through the atmosphere while maintaining geometric relationships between objects. As if responding to observation. Your instinct right now is to find the comfortable explanation. I get that. But comfort and accuracy aren't the same thing. And multi-camera, multi-mission documentation doesn't evaporate because the implications are strange. Now a different frequency. March 2009. Astronaut John Phillips performs routine maintenance outside the ISS. His communication system picks up something unexpected. Whispers and rhythmic patterns on a frequency that should carry nothing. Dead air. The sounds continue for 12 minutes before fading, distinct from mission control chatter, distinct from satellite bleed, distinct from anything in the known communication architecture of low Earth orbit. Between 2009 and 2017, 14 separate EVA missions reported similar anomalies. The patterns share consistent characteristics. An initial sequence of pulses following a mathematical progression resembling prime numbers, followed by what multiple astronauts independently described as rhythmic modulation, almost like structured speech. Radio astronomers who analyzed recordings found no match to known terrestrial or satellite sources. The signals intensify on Earth's night side, away from the planet's radio noise. And the most unsettling detail? The transmission frequency shifts in a pattern that correlates precisely with radiation bursts from distant neutron stars. One NASA scientist called it an impossible correlation. The scientific framework points to interactions between Earth's magnetosphere and charged solar wind particles generating radio frequency phenomena the human brain interprets as patterns. Plausible on paper. But it doesn't account for the mathematical structure embedded in the signals, doesn't explain why they appear exclusively during EVAs and aren't detected by the station's far more sensitive communication arrays. The universe broadcasts on frequencies we barely know how to read, and that fact connects directly to what comes next. November 2014. The ISS crew passes over the North Atlantic. Multiple crew members observe a shadow moving across Earth's surface. Not the station's own shadow, that one is mapped and predictable. This dark area spans approximately 120 kilometers in diameter. It moves against the trajectory of known satellites, maintains a perfect circular shape, travels at constant velocity regardless of terrain elevation beneath it, something impossible for a conventional shadow, which distorts over mountains and valleys. Between 2014 and 2021, ISS crews reported this phenomenon 5 separate times. Every sighting shares the same profile: circular perfection, diameter between 80 and 130 kilometers, movement patterns that defy known orbital mechanics. During the 2019 observation, onboard instruments detected a brief but measurable fluctuation in Earth's magnetic field directly beneath the shadow's path. No object above to cast it, no atmospheric phenomenon to explain it. A circle of darkness, dragging itself across the planet without a source. I'm not claiming I have the answer. I'm telling you the question this raises is real, and the comfortable dismissal doesn't survive the instrument data. I checked. Now we go further. February 2011. Astronauts performing maintenance on the exterior of the ISS's Russian segment discover something that shouldn't exist. Delicate web-like structures formed on handrails and equipment bays. Crystalline formations with intricate patterns. Thin filaments extending from central nodes and geometric arrays. None of this was present during a spacewalk just 14 days earlier. NASA and Roscosmos attributed it to crystallized coolant leakage or water vapor from previous EVAs. But laboratory attempts to replicate these formations under simulated space conditions failed to produce anything with comparable structural complexity. Samples brought inside revealed silicon compounds with trace carbon arranged in patterns that don't match any known crystallization process. Between 2011 and 2018, similar formations appeared on ISS exterior surfaces 8 separate times. Each occurrence coincided with high solar activity. Each exhibited growth patterns suggesting response to the electromagnetic environment. And the most difficult detail to explain, these structures appeared to self-repair after micrometeorite damage, reconstructing their geometric patterns within hours. The leading theory involves complex crystallization unique to microgravity, possibly guided by electromagnetic fields directing charged particles as they solidify. It's plausible, but structural complexity, preferential growth on specific alloys, and apparent environmental responsiveness remain unexplained. And none of it prepares you for the heaviest case in this investigation. February 2012, 2 astronauts perform an EVA near the Z1 truss structure of the ISS. Both report simultaneously entering a region where instruments fail, communications cut, and perception distorts profoundly. For approximately 94 seconds of mission elapsed time, both astronauts experienced what they described as extreme temporal dilation, what felt like nearly 20 minutes of subjective experience compressed into less than 2 minutes of objective telemetry. Upon return, both described entering a region that appeared darker than surrounding space. Not merely an absence of light, an absence of everything, including distance itself. Both astronauts, with no history of psychological instability, reported overwhelming sensations of being observed by something within that empty region. Between 2012 and 2023, 5 separate spacewalks in different orbital segments documented similar events. Each shares consistent markers: instrumentation failure, communication loss, temporal perception distortion, and profound psychological effects persisting for days afterward. A classified NASA research group reportedly designated these events under the code name Project Abyssal in 2015. Theoretical explanations range from localized space-time anomalies to quantum field fluctuations temporarily altering fundamental constants within a bounded region. Some researchers suggest these could represent contact points between our universe and higher dimensional structures predicted by certain string theory variants. Not proven, may never be. But 94 seconds that feel like 20 minutes. 2 people experiencing it simultaneously. Instruments confirming the anomaly. And a pattern that repeats. That's not nothing. That's a data set nobody knows what to do with. And the pattern doesn't stop at physics. It reaches into the mind itself. 1984. Cosmonauts aboard the Salyut 7, Leonid Kazim, Vladimir Solovyov, and Oleg Atkov, report observing 7 luminous figures outside their spacecraft. Massive, winged, bathed in orange light. All 3 crew members confirmed the sighting. In 1973, Skylab commander Gerald Carr reported seeing a humanoid figure floating alongside the station without a pressure suit. In 1996, 2 shuttle astronauts independently reported sensing an additional presence within their vehicle during orbital night cycles, a phenomenon subsequently documented on 4 separate ISS expeditions. Astronaut and cosmonaut psychological profiles represent the most rigorous mental health screening on Earth. These are the most stable professionals alive. Yet, approximately 27% of long-duration space travelers report some variation of this phenomenon. Neuroscience offers a framework: cosmic radiation striking the temporal lobe, circadian disruption from 90-minute day-night cycles. The psychological weight of existing where the margin between life and vacuum death is measured in millimeters of Hall. Recent brain imaging of returned astronauts shows significant changes in regions governing sensory perception after extended orbital stays. This isn't mysticism, it's neuroscience colliding with an environment the human brain never evolved to inhabit. And that reframes the entire investigation. The question stops being, what's out there? it becomes something harder. What happens to consciousness when it leaves the environment that built it? September 2016, the ISS crew documents a cloud formation over the South Pacific approximately 320 kilometers in diameter, doing something impossible. Moving directly against prevailing high-altitude winds, maintaining circular cohesion under forces that should tear it apart, and appearing to respond to the station's passage, reorganizing into a spiral pattern tracking the ISS trajectory. High-resolution cameras captured internal vortices rotating in synchronized patterns that meteorologists described as mathematically impossible for natural cloud behavior. Between 2016 and 2024, 11 similar formations were observed. Each shared the circular structure, wind-independent movement, and apparent reactivity to observing platforms. During the 2020 event, instruments detected electromagnetic activity within the formation, carrying patterns one NASA researcher described as bearing uncomfortable similarity to neural firing sequences. Pulsing translucent organisms that change direction without force. Phantom stations that appear alongside instrument failures. Geometric lights moving at impossible speeds across ocean surfaces. Mathematically structured whispers on dead frequencies. Sourceless shadows 100 kilometers wide. Self-repairing crystalline structures on the station's skin. Regions where time dilates and perception shatters. Luminous figures reported by 27% of long-duration crews. Cloud systems that respond to observation. All documented by the most trained, stable, monitored humans in existence, under the most controlled conditions ever created. The Dogma says space is empty, predictable, and fully described by current physics. 5 decades of crewed spaceflight say otherwise. I'm not telling you it's extraterrestrial. I'm not telling you it's supernatural. I'm telling you there are phenomena documented by multiple witnesses across multiple missions spanning multiple decades that fit no existing model. And the question that raises, the one nobody asks publicly, is whether the space we think we understand is actually what we think it is. Or whether leaving Earth's atmosphere means crossing a threshold into something our senses, our instruments, and our consciousness are only beginning to register. The dogma satisfies the comfortable. The truth satisfies the curious. I'm James. See you in the next one.